going. I don't think I've ever done anything like this before, but a lot of recent events, I feel like I need to do it. So, we all talk about brotherhood out here and how the brotherhood's gone, everyone's out for themselves and all that sort of caper. It's not entirely wrong. It's not entirely right either. I am not what you'd call necessarily old school. I mean, to be honest, by the time I started driving, most of the old school boys had already retired. But I had the good fortune when I started 16 years ago to have a fella, I don't know, I guess he looked past all the baby face and all that crap. And yeah, probably a little bit of attitude too. Saw that there must have been a bit of potential in there. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a super truck or anything like that. I don't know it all. Every day I'm still learning. And if you think you know it all, you're full of shit. There's always something changing. I mean, this bloody job, regulation changes, policy changes, route changes. If you reckon you know it all, you're full of shit. It's not even the people making the rules know it all. But anyway, 16 years ago, this bloke, I guess he saw something in me. Saw a bit of potential or something. Now granted, I do come from a trucking background, but it's only my old man and, well, all of my uncles on mum's side have their licence. Two of them, well, one of them now drives, two of them drove. Unfortunately, the other one passed away a few years back. But even with that background, none of them owned their own trucks. Well, my parents did, but I was tiny. None of them had their own trucks. There was no free ride into the industry, no easy tasks. It took me banging on every door, going to every agency, basically begging for work. Everyone wanted 2 years. 2 years experience. I'm 18 years old. How the hell am I going to have 2 years experience in anything? But I found a company that no longer exists, sadly, but they decided to give me a shot, put me on, started local. At this point I only had my HC, and yeah, I wanted to drive trucks, grew up around them, love it, but no one wanted to give me a shot, except this company. They took a chance on me. So I started out as the local bloke. Work started, I think if memory serves, work started at 7 o'clock every morning. I was there at 6:30. Within about 2 or 3 weeks of starting there, every morning I'd be in there before all the other guys got in. I'd have all the trucks split up and organised so we could unload what we needed to unload. Not because I'm cocky, just because I was doing what I could. I was paying attention to what was going on, paying attention to the people around me, listening and trying to do my best to do what was asked of me. About probably 6 months after I started there, I finally managed to upgrade to my B double. But before all of that, they started me as a local. They moved me up to doing changeovers. Before long I was running Market Express, doing Melbourne, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. If this fella hadn't taken an interest, I'd probably still be a pretty bloody ordinary driver at best. As I said before, I'm no super driver. But because of this guy, he took me under his wing, showed me all the little tips, gave me a whole bunch of pointers and tricks, and to this day, he is still giving me tips and advice. Taught me things like, when I started with my MC, taught me things like, you're trying to back the double up, and it's not working for you, the more you try, the harder it's going to get, because the more frustrated you get, the more you're going to overcorrect and the worse you're going to make it. So get out, go and have a walk for 5 minutes. If you're a smoker, go and have a smoke, go have a can of Coke or something, go and cool off, come back and try again. And almost without fail, when you come back and try again, first go, you'll get it. Taught me things like, when you're running long distance and you've got to have an overnight break, or your long break on the trip. Say for example Melbourne-Brisbane. When you get to Gilgandra, don't stop at the Shell on the other end of town. Not because there's anything wrong with it, solely because if you stop at the Caltex on the south side of town, when you get up in the morning, you do all your checks, check all your levels and whatnot, you fire it up, you give it a few minutes to warm up, and you've got to travel through town before you get out to the highway. Now, a lot of you are probably going to say, yeah, and in all the time I've known this bloke, I don't think I can honestly tell you one time he's had a breakdown. And it doesn't make him a super trucker either. It just means he's using a bit of this. You think about it, you get out after your break, you're at the other end of town, you get out, you fire it up, you hit the road, you're straight into 100k zone. Everything's cold. Your diffs are cold, your gearbox is cold, hell, your engine's cold. And you're going bang, straight to the limit. It's unnecessary wear and tear. Now, other things he's taught me, things like, don't get me wrong, I love a good Jake brake like the rest of us. But especially when you're running for a smaller outfit, or you're regularly running through the same route, people get to know the truck. You're coming through town at 2 o'clock in the morning with hot dogs and running the Jake all the way through the town. It's not going to take long for A, your boss to hear about it, and B, the blokes you're subbing to. And before you know it, you won't be subbing to them anymore. Kids these days that want to get out here and drive trucks are up against a massive wall between the insurance, between the regulation, and quite simply, most companies aren't really prepared to give them a go. But it's partly your fault too. Don't have attitude. You know shit, right? You're at the start of your driving career. You don't know nothing. I don't care whether you come from Decker or whoever you've come from. You know nothing. And if you think like that, use these things and pay attention to the people around you, you'll become a decent driver. You'll get to the point where people will ring you up and say, hey mate, you doing anything this week? I could use a driver. Not because you're just the name and the phone number, because they know that you're going to look after the equipment, you're going to look after the customer, and you're going to make a point of getting the job done cleanly and efficiently. If you come into it with attitude, you're going to lose fast. If you're lucky, no one will help you. If you're unlucky, you'll end up hurting yourself or someone else. And don't fool yourself for a second. It doesn't matter whether you're in a 4-ton rigid or an 120-ton triple road truck. Whatever you hit, it's going to hurt. Don't push yourself when you're tired. We know that they've got these stupid deadlines and things. We know that everyone wants everything 10 minutes ago. But think about it like this. You're better to be late than dead on time. They can always rebook the time slot. They can always ring the customer and say, look, I'm sorry. Shit happened. Bloke needed a half hour, an hour, 4 hours in the bunk. We apologise. He's on his way. No matter how angry you think the customer's going to be, they're not going to be as upset as they are when they've got to scrape it off the side of the road because you're rolling. We need some kind of an apprenticeship in this system. It's not going to happen. And let's face facts. With the way they keep changing the procedures and the policies and things out here all the time, the disconnection between management and drivers, the disconnection between drivers and the general public. Honestly, what sort of an apprenticeship is going to be any good anyway? The best apprenticeship you can get is think you know nothing. Ask the blokes around you. If you've got questions, ask. There is no stupid question. You might give someone a giggle. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather have you ask me a really dumb question than have to go to your funeral. Back to this bloke. He took me under his wing 16 years ago. To this day, he's still helping me out and giving me tips. No one's paying him to do it. No one even really asked him to do it. In fact, to be honest, I don't think I asked him to do it. He just took a shine to me. Maybe he saw something there, I don't know. But I had the small fortune of having a similar thing happen to me a couple of years ago. I'm not going to pretend in any way, shape or form that I've shaped this guy's career or who he is and where he is in any way at all. But after all the drivers I'd seen come through with the attitudes and we know this and we know that, this young fella, and I say young fella, he's only a few years younger than me, but this young bloke come along and he just had the right attitude. I think if memory serves, he said something like one of the customers he had to go to, he was having a bit of trouble with it. Sat him down, gave him a few pointers, and hey, my way's not the right way, but it's not necessarily the wrong way either. And if it works, and no one's getting hurt, is it really the wrong way? Anyway, gave him a little bit of advice, helped him out with a few tips here and there over the last couple of years. Found out the other day that after the company we worked for went belly up, he was ready to throw it in. Nah, bugger the trucks, I'm out of here. Found a company to give him a shot. And now, they're looking at making him a state operations manager. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend that I had anything to do with it, really. But a little bit of advice, and look at him now. He could have just been another muppet. I could have been another one of the arrogant blokes that turns around and says stupid shit like, you're not a real truck driver until you're an old one. Or, piss off young fella. Nah, don't get me wrong, I've said that to my share of people over the years too. But, saw some potential there. He was asking intelligent questions, not just being an idiot. And he listened when you talked to him. Made me want to give him the time of day. Made him want to ask more questions. It's the best apprenticeship we're going to get. It's the only way this industry is going to get any better. We need guys like the fella that took me under his wing 16 years ago. We need fellas like the young bloke who was asking me questions. Half the tips I've given him come from the guy that gave me the advice in the first place. Instead of us being at each other's throat all the time, instead of us stabbing one another in the back, maybe start asking some questions. All you newbies, open your ears, close your mouth a bit. You might know some things, but if you shut up and listen, you might learn a lot of things. It's really up to us. And it's not a matter of this whole let's blockade shit or we're going to write an angry letter and all this crap. Buck stops with us. Managers aren't going to do any more than maybe take you for a run around the block to see if you can handle the vehicle. Since most of them are automatic these days, pretty much anyone can handle the vehicle. Other drivers that won't listen or got a chip on their shoulder or whatnot, they're not going to be any help either. To this day, one thing that drives me nuts more than anything else is when you hear these old fellas whinging and moaning about how us young blokes have got attitude. You guys forget something. Don't get me wrong. You got my respect because you drove in a lot worse condition than what we are now. You all piss and moan about these speed limiters and these logbooks and shit. If you clowns hadn't have been running around like it was a fucking racetrack, they wouldn't have brought these laws in. you're jarred up off your tits to the point you couldn't see the bus you've just driven through, we wouldn't have these rules. You weren't running back to back to back to back 70, 80 hours in 3 days. We wouldn't have these friggin' logbooks. I'm not saying it's your fault, but at the end of the day, these laws were brought in before I was. So how is it my fault? That right there is the problem. Stop placing blame. Doesn't matter whether a bloke's from bloody India or Werribee or Bankstown. Gives a shit where you're from. Take the bloody earplugs out of your ears, shut your mouth, listen to the things people are telling you, open your mouth to ask questions. You'll learn a lot. These old guys that like to whinge also have a hell of a lot of knowledge. And it's really nice when you get, like I had tonight, got out of the customer late, speed limiters, road rules, only so much I can do. Just passing, I said to the bloke, look, I'm only filling in here, I'm just wondering how am I doing with my times, are they alright? I'm not slow, not fast enough, or I'm doing the best I can. Turns around and he goes, mate, you are smashing it. We weren't expecting you for at least another half an hour. Haven't broken any rules. Done everything by the book, can't afford not to. Tracking and all that crap these days. Not to mention a copper behind every bush. Again, doesn't make me a super trucker. Doesn't make me a know-it-all. Pay attention. Focus on your job. Do what you can. Little things like that can make the customer really happy. When the customer's happy, the boss is happy. Because when your customer's unhappy, he's getting nasty calls. I get tired and pull up and have a half hour. It comes back to the fact though that during the day, if you're working night shift, doing long distance stuff, it's on you. You're going to bugger eyes around all day and then jump in the truck and drive that night, you're going to get tired. You don't pay attention to the fact you're getting tired, you're going to have an accident. You're working 2 jobs, I feel for you. You're an idiot. You have to have yourself overcommitted if you've got to do that. Stop getting everything on finance and lease and all this crap. An old car's just as good as a new car if you maintain it properly. This industry could do a hell of a lot better. But it's on us. The only way it's going to change is when we do. Blockades and all this shit you hear people talking about all the time, they're a funny idea and all that. The reality of it is, you're not going to get the attention of the government. You're going to piss off the general public. The general public are the ones that we need on our side. Because if we're upsetting them, the government's just going to bring in more rules and more regulations to make things worse. I guess in closing it's this. You older blokes and Sheilas, lose the chip. Give some of these young'uns a go. Sooner or later we're all going to retire. Someone's got to fill these seats. I don't know about you, but I'd like to know that once I've retired, the trucks that are coming at me have someone behind the wheel that's paying attention and knows what's what. You newbies, I say newbies rather than young'uns because it don't matter whether you're 18 or 80. If you're new to it, ask questions and shut your mouth and listen to the answer. You need a good bullshit filter because you're going to hear a lot of crap. But you're going to find a lot of gold in there too. If you're lucky, you find a bloke like I did that will still be looking after you 16 years later and making sure that you're a decent operator. I think that's about enough of a ramble for now. Let's start looking out for each other, eh? Keep it safe, keep it legal, get home to your families. No one wants to go to a funeral.